Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 14 of season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. called Love in the Time of Hydra. Now, if you didn't get it, this is a reference to a movie and a book called Love in the Time of Cholera, which is something to do with romance in like old timey Spain or something. I don't know. I've never seen or read the book. I've just heard of it. And generally speaking, I think this is a pretty decent episode. It's sort of mainly this is really there to introduce us to the quote unquote real shield and advance things a little further along in the plots involving Sky, and to give us a chance to finally, after quite a long stretch, get to see what Ward and Agent 33 have been up to. So let's just kind of get right into things, and let's talk quickly about Sky and what's going on with her, because she's really at the crux of what's going on here. I really did like her conversation at the cabin with Coulson, where she's like, "Look, just talk to me like my friend. Don't talk to me like my boss. Talk to me as a friend." And that's really what Sky does need right now. The only person who really seems to be very upfront with the fact that they're in her corner so far has been Fitz. And given just sort of the real 180 that Simmons has taken, and her more than a little hypocritical stance on the whole situation, it's kind of understandable that Sky would not be feeling super well disposed towards her. But Coulson, taking the time to really just sort of talk with Sky as a person, tell him that story about his dad and the car, that was cool stuff. That really was a nice moment for both of them, and it fleshed Coulson out a little bit too. And I definitely loved the whole conversation between Fitz and Simmons about, Sky having the potential to have Avengers level power, and then they sort of debate. Well, Fitz sort of like saying, we need to help Sky. She could, and she could be somebody like Captain America, while Simmons, in a sense, technically more accurately, says that in her current state, Sky is more like the Hulk. Of course, Fitz turns that around and points out to her like, yeah, the world was saved by the Hulk and his friends, so we should all be pretty darn grateful that he exists. So I'm going to have to give that debate to Fitz this time around. But he does sort of I do like that basically what Fitz is saying is, yeah, Sky has a problem now, but if we help her properly, then she could be someone of incredible. Well, Simmons is more focused on the danger Sky could possibly represent. Okay, let's go with this hand. While Simmons is thinking danger, while Fitz is thinking potential. And here's the thing, and this is a quote that Abraham Lincoln said, and that people tend to live up to or down to their expectations of them, to your expectations of them. And this is totally true. This is why teachers who go out there and say to students, even ones who are normally struggling, who in a way have even written themselves off, like, hey, I believe in you. You can do this. You have the potential within you to be more than you think. And really nurture that tend to be the ones that are extremely influential on students' lives. Teachers like that are people who can transform people's lives. Make them look at themselves in ways they never would have imagined on their own. And again, this is really sort of what's the debate here. Do we treat Sky like a potential threat? Do we make her feel like she should be afraid of her powers and what she is? Or should we stand by her, encourage her, show her the enormous potential, what a gift this could really be? And, this is really what's going on here. And I love how Fitz even puts it. The most terrifying transformation around here isn't really what happened to Sky, it's really what happened to Simmons. She's been basically been very quick to sort of label Sky having powers as a negative thing, and even Fitz even pointed out like how she couldn't stand to be around him after he was changed against his will as well. So man, lots of points to Fitz for being the stand-up guy here. And let's see. I suppose this sort of feels like a good time to transition over to what's going on with Real Shield. Now, of course, it's absolutely fantastic that they've got Edward James Olmos here on the show. I mean, the guy is an amazing actor. If you're like me, you just marveled at this guy for years on Battlestar Galactica. You know, yeah, he had a really nice turn on Dexter a couple of years back, which is frankly one of the highlights of a fairly crap season. And now we've got him here as Robert Gonzalez, leader of the quote-unquote Real Shield. And these guys are hilarious, and they're all like, "Oh, we're all about transparency and accountability." And despite the fact that these guys have basically, as far as we can tell, have been hanging out on an aircraft carrier, not actually doing anything. Like Coulson is more or less, not exactly above ground. I mean, he's still running around in secret, and I'm not 100% sure if they're even still on the run from the government, but they've at least reached an accord with Talbot and have been going out there and doing things that are actively helping people. Meanwhile, the Real Shield guys are just hanging out on their aircraft carrier doing God only knows what. Mostly, apparently, just trying to send moles to infiltrate Coulson's team. And they do raise an interesting objections, like, okay, can we really trust Coulson's judgment, seeing as how he's been altered by this, alien blood? Okay, now that's a fair question. But why is your immediate response, let's send people to infiltrate Coulson's team and steal from him rather than talk to him? I mean, seriously, you guys can't work out like how to call Coulson and say like, so Coulson, we're alive. We kind of have some. We want to talk to you about what's going on here. And again, this is the whole mentality that is really about the wrong direction of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's hilarious to say that these guys are very dismissive of Nick Fury's excessive secrecy when they themselves are being excessively secretive. I mean, seriously, what exactly was the risk in talking to Coulson? I mean, yes, you would have to admit that you were alive and that you existed, but come on, you really can't. That it's really that big of a sacrifice. I mean, I don't know. I'm just so annoyed at the idiocy of all of this. But this is the mentality that people from that intelligence world come from. That you can't give away even the tiniest of advantages, and it's not unreasonable. You need every advantage that you can get, but there's a point where paranoia and rationality have to meet. And the potential downsides of actually just trying to talk to Coulson to see if there can't be some sort of an accord reached, not even trying that's just stupid. They're spending all this time and effort working against somebody who really does seem to be on their own side. I mean, yes, okay, Coulson was altered by, did have that alien blood injected into him, but exactly how much weirdness has he done? I mean, yes, there's the whole alien city, but that friggin' panned out. And Coulson has not displayed any other irrational behavior besides that. And then there's the whole thing of like, oh, okay, Skye has powers, and Coulson's sort of putting her someplace safe for now. They immediately jump to the conclusion that he's stockpiling people with superpowers for some nefarious purpose, with no evidence whatsoever of this. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. I did like seeing Maggie Weaver again. She was from the S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy. Last time we saw her was in Turn, and apparently she seemed to have been killed in that episode, but I guess she wormed her way out of that one. And what's really great about this whole thing is that Hunter. I mean, I so love Hunter this episode. He is there calling bullshit on everything around him, to Gonzalez and to Bobby, and what really gets me is that whole situation where Bobby goes like, okay, I'm not going to try and stop you, but other people on this boat will. And Hunter's like, okay, bye. And then she immediately takes off after him and is going after him with the security guys. I'm like, well, what the hell happened to your promise, Bobby? If you find him, are you just going to like, oh, security guard guys, I promised him I wouldn't do anything. Go beat up my ex-husband for me. And I do like that some of the guys at Real Shield said like, "Hey, Bobby, what the hell?" And Gonzalez is like, "Look, I still trust her. Just let it go." I mean, stupid as all hell, really. Nothing huge to say about May this episode, which of course brings us to well, let's actually briefly talk about Talbot. It's always nice to see Adrian Pazdur again. I mean, he's really doing well with his role as Talbot. The only real weird thing about this is that when he figures out that the base has been infiltrated by somebody in disguise, he says to one of the guards, "If you see me somewhere where I'm not supposed to be, like shoot me or stop me or something like that." And then he immediately goes around and rounds up all the female personnel. Like, okay, dude, if you believe this person is capable of only impersonating females, why did you say that to the guard? That doesn't make sense. Now, granted, people doing impersonations of him has been a thing for Talbot in the past, so you can just sort of chalk that up to him being excessively paranoid. And it is not an unreasonable thing for him to think that this infiltrator could only, if they're female, could only impersonate females. Them being able to impersonate guys, he has no reason to think that's possible. So, points to a little bit of respect to Talbot for that. He realistically could not have known that that was an option. And just the whole thing with him talking about how like he's going to have to spend some time in the doghouse from pointing a gun at his wife, that was pretty funny. And it was definitely very good to get back to Ward after all this time. And I really do think his relationship with Agent 33 is interesting stuff. I especially like the fact that very quickly they get it out of the way that Ward is realized, like, okay, Sky shot me. I'd have to be crazy to think that there could be anything more between us after this. Now, I do think that Ward is going to continue to be kind of a wild card, and I kind of like the idea of him as sort of Sky's personal nemesis. And his relationship with Agent 33 is very interesting. I like how he talks about, Garrett had taken him when he was nobody, sort of stripped him down and made him into his own, personal weapon. Very much what it's implied that Whitehall and Bakshi had done to Agent 33. And 33 is really just sort of adrift without anybody to give her direction, thanks to her experiences in the Hydra brainwashing and all of this. And without anybody around like that, she just sort of latches on to Ward. It's more than a little bit tragic. And just the idea of, and her going like, "Why are you helping me?" And I think Ward is being genuine in his saying like, you seem like somebody who's in the same boat as me, and because of that I want to help you. But I also don't trust Ward because he's a bastard, and you know that if it comes down to it, he'd sacrifice 33 in a heartbeat to save his own ass or to get what he wants. But 33 at this point is still just so much of a follower, so completely divorced from her own sense of her own personal desires and free will, that just having somebody who seems to genuinely care about her and gives her even the semblance of direction in life is kind of like water to a drowning, like a life preserver for a drowning person. And I also like that Ward, when she sort of shapeshifts into Sky and says like, "Hey, you want to do it?" Ward says like, "Look, I'm kind of open if you want to be more than friends, but I want to be in a relationship with you, not just some mask that you assume." And on the one hand, you can take that as Ward taking a genuinely good and proper moral stance, but in rejecting repayment from 33, he is, in a way, you can sort of also look at him as manipulating her into deeper loyalty to him. She's seeing that like, hey, this guy is interested in me for reasons beyond a role in the sack. He must genuinely care about my welfare and my interest and my well-being. And to somebody in Agent 33's mindset, that's gold in terms of cementing her loyalty to Ward. And it would not surprise me the least little bit that this was on his mind. It's the a fun little role in the sack versus a hardcore loyalty from someone extremely useful to a person with their own agenda. So, as much of a bastard as he is, I gotta give Ward credit. He knows what he's doing here. And I love that scene with them grabbing Bakshi, and then like Agent, he's like immediately tries to activate 33's brainwashing, and she just knocks him the hell out. And then of course we come back to him with him, tied up to the chair, getting ready to undergo the brainwashing process, and he's like, "If I cooperate, will I be rewarded?" And 32's just like, "Nah, we're gonna take what we want from you, no matter what." And it's sort of nice to see that look on her face, that she's got a little bit of her own will back. Is just kind of the best way that I can put it. And let's face it, Bakshi's a jerk, so he deserves to suffer. And yeah, guys, that's all I have for you this time around. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.